Liverpool has more children growing up without a dad than anywhere else in the country, according to today's report. Here in the Riverside ward of the city, 65% of households are led by single mothers. It all contributes to around 1 million children in England and Wales who are growing up without a father in their lives, according to researchers. Fatherlessness, says the report, can lead to higher rates of teenage crime, pregnancy and disadvantage. Not only are many children raised without a dad, some have no male role models at all. A quarter of primary schools, for instance, have no male teachers.
We've got this emergence of, in certain parts of the country, kind of men deserts where children are growing up and they don't really see many male role models through the younger years, and that's a growing phenomenon, and it's, we've got to ask ourselves a question about whether that matters, and we really believe it does matter.
Researchers say there will be more than 2 million lone parent families by the time of the next election, but they accuse the government of doing nothing to tackle what they call a tsunami of family breakdown. David Cameron, they say, has failed to pursue any policies promoting family stability. A Number 10 spokesman said the government was delivering on its promise to support families and had provided £30 million to prevent family breakdown. Michael Buchanan, BBC News.
1 million children in Britain are growing up with barely any male influence in their lives, thanks to the increase in single-parent families and the lack of male teachers at primary schools.
A study from the Centre for Social Justice found that in some parts of the country, 3 in 4 families were headed by just one parent, while 80% of primary schools have fewer than 3 male teachers.
Well, joining us from Gingerbread, a charity which supports single parents, is Caroline Davey, and Sean Bailey is a former special advisor to David Cameron on youth and crime, who himself grew up in a single-parent household. Caroline, to you first. I mean, when you look at the figures that have been released in this report, 1 million children growing up in the UK without a father, more likely to have a television in their bedroom than they are to have a father at home. And in one area of Sheffield, 75% of households headed by a single parent, most commonly a woman. Why is this happening?
Well, let's take a reality check here. 1 in 4 families with children in the UK is headed by a single parent. That proportion has barely changed in over a decade. We know that the vast majority of single parents do a great job and their children turn out absolutely fine. 2/3 of those kids do have regular contact with their other parent, normally, but not always dad. But we do share the concern that there are children who aren't maintaining that relationship with their other parent. They're not getting the emotional support that they need and deserve, nor are they getting the financial support. We think it's a scandal that so few children in single-parent families receive child maintenance from their other parent. And we think that work does need to be done to address that fact and support all children and all families, regardless of whether they're still together or they're separated.
So, Sean, it may be sad or not desirable, but if it's not having a bad outcome on society, then in a sense it's something we might have to live with, the absence of fathers.
I think it is having a bad outcome. I think if you're a government, you have to figure out at what point can you intervene in someone's household. Clearly, you cannot make a couple stay together. But I think financially, you can make a parent stay with a child, and there's policy levers you could pull on that. And if you're bringing up if you're a single parent raising a 14-year-old boy, if you're a lady on your own, you will find that tough. There's no doubt that having an extra pair of hands, an extra pair of male hands, will make a great difference to that child's behaviour and then his outcomes in the future.
Do you think there is that danger, particularly with male children, if there's an absent male role model?
Well, we know that parenting is a really tough job, and single parents do tell us it's even harder when you're bearing that burden and doing the job of both parents on your own. But we also know that children get male and female role models from all kinds of areas. It's not just necessarily fathers, but extended family, other people in the local community. And I think we need to look more broadly at the support that families are getting, increasing that where that needs to happen, but not being as melodramatic, I'm afraid, as this report is painting a picture.
But because this report is saying, Sean, isn't it, that actually there is a real lack of male role models in the community for some of these children, not least of all in schools, where there's a lack of male teachers?
I think it's important because the educational attainment of girls has been rising at a rate far higher than boys, and I think part of that is the feminisation of the education system, what these boys see, who they aspire to be. A teacher is a very powerful role model. It's just one example. But what really funds your life from an emotional point of view is what happens in your home. And if you have no male role model, you miss some of the lessons that a man would teach to a boy, or a girl for that matter.
Caroline, so at the same time, you could say that there are quite a lot of deadbeat dads around who don't help out at home, go to the pub, smoke, all the rest of it. So it's not always ideal to have a man
I
at
think
home.
that's fair to say. In a number of couples, you know, one or other parent isn't pulling their weight, and we know very clearly that if a child is living with both parents and there's conflict in that relationship, or they're getting a damaging role model, that's worse for them. I think the other point that's key is that what's very clear is that children get worse life chances when they're growing up in poverty, and we would like to see much more support given to all families where they're growing up in financial difficulty.
That's the point, isn't it? If you're in a single-parent household, you're far, far more likely to grow up in poverty. And a lot of deadbeat dads come from a situation where they weren't parented by their dad, so don't have an example to follow. It's about how you set a culture, and men need a role.
OK, thank you both very much indeed.